Hello, this is Unsung with GameLeap, and today we're going to be going over 7 tips for top lane. These tips are going to be useful for everyone no matter what level of play you're at, so please stay tuned. As a challenger top laner, I've sat down and come up with some tips for the most common mistakes that I see from lower elo players when I'm playing on a smurf or even just queuing up on my main. Even some of the best forget fundamentals. I cannot stress the importance of honing these skills enough, so let's get moving. Starting with tip number 1, the enemy jungler is always there. I think we're all very familiar with going for that juicy all-in on a weak opponent, but sometimes you gotta stop and think before you act. It's common sense, right? It's not that easy when you're focused on the game. Remember to measure yourself. Have you seen their jungler? Do you know what side of the map they started? Were they pathing from mid to top lane to look for a quick gank? These are all things to consider before you do anything in your lane. Now that we've established what to look for, we need to go over when to look for. You've got to train yourself to look at the minimap in the start of the game and figure out what everyone on both teams are doing. Try to find out where the enemy team is starting, or look to get a ward down before minions spawn. If you're unable to do this, or you do this but you're unsure of where the jungler is, you can infer some things. If your top laner shows before the minions have hit each other, or before they're at 90% health, the jungler most likely started blue, which means you're safe until about level 3. Of course, there are some exceptions like Kayn, Eve, Fiddle, and a few others that can start a different camp, but this is a pretty good baseline. When your minions meet every game, make sure that you already know where their jungler is, and then take a good look at yours and start forming a plan. Do your champions win 2v2? Can you 1v2 them in a wave if you do push? Always keep this sort of thing in mind. If the jungler showed bot lane, go for that all-in and dominate your lane. If they showed mid, be a little more careful, maybe wait a few seconds or look to drop a ward in between the next wave. If they haven't showed at all, always assume that you are about to be ganked. You do not want to be the reason a jungler snowballs. Do you want to be the reason a jungler snowballs? I don't think anyone does. If you'd like more in-depth tips, if you're really trying your hardest to improve, go and check out the website. I'm currently doing 5 to 10 videos a week, so if you'd like to learn more from me or hear more in-depth explanations from other pro players like myself, these are only available on GameLeap.com. We have some of the most talented League of Legends players working on guides and sharing their knowledge every single day, and this is for those that are serious about wanting to step up and take things to the next level. So if this speaks to you, go check it out now. Moving on, we have tip number 2. CS is not always everything. This is a pretty common misconception a lot of League players have. CS equals gold, which means CS over a kill. Right? Wrong. The reason for this is due to how people around you play. Sometimes you're not only trying to put yourself ahead, but your team as a whole ahead. Mid coming up to gank at a bad time but still able to get to your laner, might as well help out and get that bonus XP for both of you. If you don't help out, chances are your mid into your lane, misses out on what they think is a free kill and rages at you, bringing everyone down in the process, or the list goes on. Now remember, this applies to all things. Turret plates are a thing. You want that plate money over the CS. Take a few seconds and secure that plate while you can, and you can get the minions after. I see so many people ignoring these small objectives or small skirmishes. Unless you can identify that something is lost before you get there, please go for it. It is better to try and fail than to not try at all. Now next time you see your mid or jungler being a little bit silly in your lane, but you can help them if you lose a few CS, what do? Do you risk losing over their misplay, or do you attempt and be better than them and not give them the opportunity to outplay themselves? League is a team game after all, and some sacrifices do have to be made. Now we have tip number 3. Recognize your and your opponent's power spikes. This is another thing that is easily forgotten, and remember, one mistake is worth a lot in League. Not just in gold, but in momentum and mindset. Before you autopilot and go for your CS, take a look at what champ you're against and really analyze it. Are you against a Set with a Doran's Blade, a Kayle with a Corrupting Pot? Before you autopilot, think to yourself, how much damage are you going to take if they hit level 2 right on top of you? And vice versa, how much damage are they going to take if you hit level 2 right on top of them? People in every elo forget about this and disrespect the level 2 or a spike in general, so use this to your advantage. When you're playing top lane, you hit level 2 after the first melee creep dies in the second minion wave. Put yourself between your enemy and that minion if you're playing a strong level 2 champion, and take that inch to create a mile. You really need to take advantage of this. This strength varies from champion to champion, so you really need to pay attention to your matchup. Some of the hardest counters in the game have a window of weakness or a period of extreme strength, so please do not sleep on every matchup. Don't let your opponent lane where they shouldn't be, and respect them if you're on the opposite end. If you have to flash in order to survive a power spike play, do so early so that you can still lane. Don't chunk yourself out of the lane if you can prevent it. Don't get greedy and hold your flash and give your opponent an advantage. On the other end, if you got a flash to create an advantage, do it, but make sure that you get your money's worth and that you're not flashing for nothing. These sorts of plays also extend to bases. If you teleport back to lane after a good buy and your opponent doesn't respect you enough, kill them there. Take that inch, create that mile. In order to climb and to carry, you must take risks. Sometimes it won't always work out, you might misplay, or you might get outplayed, but do not get discouraged next time you go for a power spike play. Remember, failure isn't failure, it's a learning experience. If you misplay a power spike, identify what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what you can do next time to better yourself. Now next time you hit a power spike, what are you gonna do? Give up when it doesn't work out? Of course not. Learn from it. Better yourself for the next time. Tip number 4. Teleport is global. You don't always want to use your teleport to go straight back to lane after a recall. Take a good long hard look at your lane and identify some things. Is your wave pushed? Are you going to miss that much golden experience if you walk back? Do you really need to always be present in lane? Teleport is such an incredibly strong summoner spell whose strength goes massively underused. Use this spell to its maximum potential each and every game instead of treating it like a return to top lane button. Set up a minion wave by killing a few creeps before you recall, but leaving enough to somewhat freeze your lane on their side. Then take your recall and look at that map again. Are you playing Kled? Alt bottom if the map allows it. Are you still playing Kled? Don't alt bottom if the map doesn't allow it. Teleport is as good as your macro play. If you have outstanding macro, make the most out of it with the combination of teleport and score some kills for your ADC. Get those beautiful plates for everyone, but mostly yourself, and take that Infernal Drake also for yourself before teleporting back to lane. Now what do you do if your top lane is slow pushing into the enemy? Do you teleport into a minion wave and get 3 creeps worth of XP where you could get 3 kills worth of XP and a Drake? Of course not, even if you really need those creeps. Now this is something a little bit different from before, and I'll even throw this one in as a freebie. A tip for your tip, if you will. Please do not teleport to minions in front of an enemy champion unless you are absolutely sure it is the best thing to do. I cannot tell you how many times some dummy is teleported in front of me for no reason outside of the safety of their tower, only to quickly deliver me 300 gold, a respawn timer, turret plates, and a teleport cooldown. If you can teleport to your tower and ensure a neutral lane, do that instead of teleporting in on top of XX, Dario Chopman with Ghost Flash Ignite, Hidden Jungler, and an ulti. You can very easily throw a lane in 4 seconds by hitting the F or D key if you're uncultured on a minion when you could have just teleported to the tower. And what have we learned? Teleport can go more places than top, and minions are not your friends sometimes. Moving forward, we have tip number 5. Itemize for game, not only for lane. I see this all the time in lower elos. We're playing against each other top lane, I'm playing an AP top, and my lane opponent comes back to lane with a full Spirit Visage and Merc Treads when my jungler is a 6-0 at 5 minutes, Lisa in one trick who never misses Q. The best option is to not always to try and shut down your lane alone, but to shut down multiple people with your build path. Now this depends heavily on what champion you are playing, but let's go over some examples. You're playing Ornn into Teemo. Their bot lane is doing really well on Xayah, super fed, and their support is a Pyke. You're dead even with the Teemo, and you have the completed MR cloak. What do you do next? Finish that Abyssal as soon as possible, start building armor for the fed bot lane, or cry and give up. Trick question. This depends. Look at the map. Is bot tower going to be going down soon? Are you going to be dealing with that same fed bot lane at a dragon fight soon? If you are forced to interact with different damage types, it is best to build for the stronger of the two after buying a piece for whatever you're laning against. Grab a Sunfire for armor and HP, or just an Iceborne for flat armor and CDR. Ninja Tabis are a must against any fed auto-attacking champion, so pick those up as well. This doesn't just apply to tanks. This goes for the Rivens, the Jaces, the Fioras. Going even against a Gnar when they have a Leona, Syndra, Elise, what do you build? Probably some Merc Treads, maybe an MR item, it's usually a good idea. You can apply this to every game, so you must pay major attention to who is doing well and where they are going to be. Game, not lane. Most of the time. Tip number 6. This one is short but sweet. Bushes are a part of top lane too. That's right, those 3 green plants, those are your friends. Use the bushes to reduce harass, get CS safely, and to mess with people in general. There is so much underused utility in bushes. Vision is a literal game changer. Getting someone's ward when you're harassing them from a bush could mean that they die to the next gank your jungler does. Them missing that extra auto attack worth of damage from you ducking back into that bush could save your life when their jungler comes up for you. You could set up easy surprise all-ins just by ducking into a bush for a few seconds, maybe using tip number 2 to make them anxious or make them think that you backed. I know this sounds kind of obvious, but I see this all the time in lower elo games. People do not utilize their bushes as much as they should. There are so many options. If you're against a ranged top, sit in the bush, make them burn their ward on you, or CS safely because they can't harass you while you dip in and out. What are bushes? Your friends. What do you do with your friends? Hang out around them. And now, last but not least, tip number 7. Buy a control ward every single time you base. This ties in with the previous tip. Vision is a complete and utter game changer. An extra potion could be a nice way of getting some HP back. It doesn't matter if you die while it's ticking. What could have prevented this death? A control ward to spot the jungler coming to your lane. 75 gold is very cheap in comparison to all the gold you'll be missing if you die to a gank. Here are some common ward spots that you need to be using and clearing with your control wards. We have the top river bush, the obvious tri bush, and the not so obvious jungle bushes, and mid river bush. These spots are incredibly powerful when used well. Information is everything in League of Legends. This tip also extends later in the game when you're doing objectives. If you're a good little summoner and you have a control ward on you for that Baron or for that Drake, your teams will absolutely adore you. The enemy team will practically fall into your open and loving top laner arms, trying frantically to get information or vision of their own. Warding is a truly powerful skill that I cannot stress enough. If you learned a thing or two from this guide, then our premium content over on GameLeap.com will blow you away and have you climbing rank after rank. We have a full course dedicated only to top lane guides authored by challenger coaches just like myself, so waste no time and hit that link on the screen right now to get started. Once again, this was Unsung with GameLeap. Thank you all for watching, and remember, be better.